Going out there. Whatever the war is, they're there. Do you remember a stand fast? No, mate. No.
Funeral there to bury the boy. They're coming back today. So for those who wish, we've got some black armbands to wear, if you want to show that respect. Let's be clear. We're anti-war, but pro-soldier. We don't want to see these boys killed. The best thing that we could be doing for them, the best thing, is to bring them home. Immediate and unconditional withdrawal. Thanks everyone for coming out. I suppose the first thing is to say, well, who is Stand Fast? Some of you may not know who we are. We're a group of veterans and former service people that oppose the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. We see a lot of similarities in the real reasons the troops have been sent to these countries, and we also see a lot of similarities in the lies that have been used for the justifications for both these wars. Part of the reason for Stand Fast being formed was to help destroy the myth that if you oppose the war, you're against the individual soldiers involved. The government is very good at using the previous sacrifice of soldiers for their own ends, and to make it this almost sort of holy of holies that you can't touch. You know, if you speak out against the war, then you're directly attacking the people in there, and that's.
I wanted to talk briefly about what I like to call the sudden feminists who defend the war in Afghanistan. The likes, when the war started, the likes of George Bush and John Howard were suddenly on the side of the women of Afghanistan and saying that this war and this occupation was all about the rights of the women. It was echoed throughout the media, and it's still repeated today in the justifications for the ongoing brutal occupation. And it's an absolute disgrace, and it's something that genuine feminists, people who really stand by women in Afghanistan and throughout the world, have no part of and want no part of.
I'd just like to sing a song from the early 1600s. With your drums and guns and guns and drums, hurroo, hurroo. With your drums and guns and guns and drums, hurroo, hurroo. With your drums and guns and guns and drums, the enemy nearly slew ya. Johnny dear, you look so queer. Johnny, I hardly knew ya. Where are the legs that used to run, hurroo, hurroo? Where are the legs that used to run, hurroo, hurroo? Where are the legs that used to run? Indeed, your dancing days are done. Johnny dear, you look so queer. Johnny, I hardly knew ya. With your guns and drums and drums and guns, hurroo, hurroo. With your drums and guns and guns and drums, hurroo, hurroo. With your drums and guns and guns and drums, the enemy nearly slew ya. Johnny dear, you look so queer. Johnny, I hardly knew ya.
I belong to a Japanese labor union. I teach in Japan until 4 months ago. And over there, the anti-war movement is also growing. My union was 6 months on. We started protesting 6 months before the 2003 war began, when other unions also around the world were doing this. But in Japan, we were out there in October. The war began in March. And I say this because besides being a university teacher, I'm an ex-journo. And I have 2 degrees in Middle Eastern history. In the States, they won't let you teach about Palestine. They'll fire you. If you're a journo, they won't let you talk about it. All you have to do is look at Helen Thomas, who worked for UPI for 40 years and opened her mouth about Palestine and was fired. Yeah. One of the best women journalists for 90-year-old woman fired because she spoke her mind about Palestine.
Yeah.
So,
as for myself, I'm actually a veteran of the Vietnam War, but in a different sense, in that I was one of a number of young men who were up for the National Service, or NASHO as they used to call it. And I remember I was a student at university in 1971, and someone in my tutorial group said, who's going to the Vietnam Moratorium March? And I was the only person who said, yes, I'll be going.
I'd like to sort of emphasise what I think Dave said about the fact that the war in Afghanistan and the fact and the war in Iraq are just the the later stages in the war. That there is a war machine which is pushing on into Central Asia. It came about with the collapse of the Soviet Union and the belief by the Americans that they could now push into Southwest Asia. And as a consequence of that, we've seen the Iraq war, we've seen the Afghanistan war, we've seen Pakistan destabilised. They're moving against Iran, and the war is going to be, go into the stands, it's going to go into Kyrgyzstan, etc. As the Americans push their power into Central Asia, this is being done for the usual imperialist measures of trying to get resources for the war machine. For the war machine, the most important resource is oil, and 60% of the oil, or some huge quantity of oil, is in the area that the American Empire is expanding into.